Welcome back to another music vid. I've got I've got four, great start, 4 records and 2 CDs which are over here. I've had them all, apart from one, for just a short period of time. One of them I've had for ages. But you wouldn't have known that unless I said it, you know. So I could have just said I bought them all yesterday, you'd be none the wiser. Now one of them actually I did buy, or I actually, tell a lie, I bought it ages ago, but it was like kind of a pre-order thing, and it just arrived a couple of days ago. Now what I'm going to do for that vid, in maybe next week or the week after, whenever it is, I'm going to do a separate unboxing video for that. And I'll talk about more when I get to it, but so yeah, there's a bit of a heads up. So let's start on straight in there. 4 records, 2 CDs. The first album is by a band called The Ocean Party. Now, it helped if I held it the right way. The Ocean Party are a band from Melbourne in Australia. This album's called Lightweight. I believe it's their 5th album. That's what I read a while back. But I'm not sure if that's including EPs, because I do know they had a couple of those. But either way, it was 5 albums or EPs in the space of 3 years, so they were working pretty hard and pretty fast. This came out in 2015. I think there's a new album as well, which has just come out this year, but I've not listened to any tracks off it, so I can't recommend it. But I'm going to hazard a guess it's the same kind of sound, which is essentially kind of dream pop. So if you like dream pop music, with a hint of like shoegazing in there, so I'm thinking of things like Swerve Driver, the Jesus and Mary chain, and very slight elements of that. Even more slight of like the Joy Division. There's elements of it in there. But maybe things even like Weezer, but not too much with the really loud kind of catchy melodies. But it very kind of scaled back, almost surf music, chilled out. It has melodies without question, but very much on a chilled out kind of reining in the sound, if you like. It's a really poor way of describing it. But obviously, as ever, what I'll do is I'll put a song from the album in the description box, so please feel free to check it out. So a few songs that I really like. Black Blood, which I think was a single. That's a good one. Lightweight, which is obviously the name of the album. Phone Sex, which I know nothing about in reality. That's a good track. That probably will be the track that I put the link to in the description box, because that was the first one that I heard, and of this band going back whenever it was, quite a while. So yeah, a decent album, and I've now got to go back and check out their discography, really, because as I say, they released a few EPs and albums before this, came out in 2015, and it looks like there's a new one out, so I'll be checking that out. So that's The Ocean Party. That was actually quite difficult to get, that album at the time. I've looked online since, and there's a few more knocking about. But because they're quite a small band, relatively speaking, there's not many copies in America, and maybe not even in the UK. So I had to import it from Australia. So if you like it, that could be where you're going to have to get yours from. But in this day and age, you know, online purchasing, you can get anything from anywhere in the space of a few days. So it doesn't really matter when it comes to localised availability, I guess. The internet is a great thing. Next up, and now this one made me laugh because... well, actually, I'll show that bit in a second. But the album, this didn't make me laugh. It's a good album. It's Erasure. It's Erasure's 17th album, which came out this year, and it's called World Be Gone. Now, this is on a special... Let me get it out, actually, just very quickly. On a special limited edition orange vinyl, which is really nice, really striking. And, yeah, I think it is a limited edition. Let me have a look on the front. Yeah, limited edition orange vinyl. And it comes with a digital copy and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, a lot of vinyl records these days do come with a downloadable code, which I think is really good. It's a great way of promoting the album and selling records, ultimately, because records are cool again. But not just the fact that they're cool. Obviously, it's great to listen to records and vinyl, because, at least for me anyway, it forces you to listen to the music with digital copies, with CDs. It's just too easy to skip to the next track. When you put a record on, you really appreciate it. And it doesn't mean to say that you like every track, of course, but it definitely forces you to appreciate the record a lot more than what you would if it was a CD or if it was a digital code. But by including the digital code, they're keeping up with the times, because let's face it, that's the kind of the world we live in. And there's a time and there is a place for digital music. I love it. You know, I'm a veteran now with Spotify and listening, obviously, to songs on YouTube. Absolutely love digital music. But you can't beat the physical thing. And of course, it supports the band that little bit more as well. So yeah, I'm a big fan of digital stuff, but I'm also a big fan of the physical stuff as well. So yeah, their 17th album. What I'm really pleased about with this band is the fact that it reached number 6 in the UK charts, and I believe it was their highest position. If I showed the back, not that there's a great deal to see, but I believe that it was their highest position since 1994, which would have been their I Say, I Say, I Say album, which I think got to maybe that was number 1. I think it was number 1, actually. So yeah, this one got to number 6, their highest charting position since 1994, which is really good because I'm a big fan of Erasure, and I worry in a way, not literally, but I worry how bands like this, you know, godfathers, if you like, of synth pop, how relevant they are in today's music to, you know, a much younger demographic. Because of course these guys now, they're in their 50s, Vince Clarke and Andy Bell. So by getting to number 6, I guess it shows that they are relevant, and age is ultimately just a number. So yeah, really pleased with that. It makes me wonder why their other stuff didn't chart higher, because they have released some good stuff over the last 20 years. But yeah, so a really good, well, I say a really good record. The thing what I'll say about this is that it's quite a slow-paced album. So if you like Erasure of old, with all the thumping kind of beats and dance songs, there's a few on here. I mean, notably, Love You to the Sky, which is a really good song, and it's the opening track, and I think it's the only, so far anyway, single that they've released. So that's the first track. Just a Little Love is also quite upbeat. Maybe Be Careful What You Wish For slightly. World Be Gone maybe, and A Bitter Party, and a possibly slightly upbeat. But the rest of them are very slow paced. It's still synth pop, it's still dance kind of music, but it's very slow paced. So if you're not into that kind of thing, this may take you a good few listens. But as ever, the more you listen to it, particularly on record, because like I say, you're forced to listen to it, you do appreciate it that bit more. So yeah, I do like it, but it's just not that kind of full-on dance Erasure music that we're used to, other than a couple of songs. But it's still a good record. And also, as a result of buying that record, I pre-ordered it. I think it was on pledge.com. And, you know, sometimes when you buy off that website, you're given incentives, like, you know, you can, there's all sorts of stuff. You can get, like, signed copies. You can get, like, VIP stage tickets or back stage passes. You can get little extras like keychains and signed posters and whatever it may be. And one of the things that came with this, in fact, I didn't even know, to be honest. And it's just a small little, somewhat of a gimmicky thing, but it's kind of nice to have. And it came with this little kind of fold-out poster. And as you'll probably be able to see, well, in fact, you won't be able to work them out, but there's a load of names. So all these names, there must be a good few thousand on here because it's really small print. They're all the names of people that pre-ordered. And my name is on there because I was one of the ones that pre-ordered. So somewhere in there, I found it already. I'm not going to show it. What's the point of that? But my name is on there. It's a bit of a thank you, if you like, from the band. So it's a bit of a tokenistic kind of throwaway gesture, but it's kind of nice and cool at the same time. So that's that. Now, the third album that I bought, this is a debut album by the band called The Killers, and it's Hot Fuss, and this came out, I think, in 2004. It says 2016 on the back because, of course, this is a reissue. It's not an original purchase. When it comes to reissues, I'm not that bothered. Maybe in the future I will be. But, yeah, since getting back into vinyl these last few years, I've never really been that bothered about getting the original label. Although, sometimes I do consider it. But, of course, more often than not, you're going to be paying a premium for those. So I don't really mind, at least right now, getting reissues. It's ultimately the same cover, it's the same song, it's the same track list for the most part. There's the odd change and alteration here and there. And the only other difference really is because obviously sometimes what will happen is maybe the old label would have been discontinued, so that wording may not be on the front cover wherever it is. I know that was the case with the Cast album, All Change. I showed that album going back probably a few months now. And these days it's on, is it Demon Records, I think you call them? Back then it was Polydor, but they're not signed with Polydor anymore, so that isn't on their album. But other than that, it's just basically just an aesthetic thing. Other than that, it doesn't really matter. I guess for value, obviously it's best to have the original thing. But a reissue for me, at least right now where I'm at with records, reissues are fine, so I'm not that bothered. So anyway, yeah, 2004, the debut album from The Killers. Now I remember, this is really funny, I remember hearing, it would have been, let me look at the track list. It would have been track number 5 on side A, All These Things That I've Done. And when I first heard it, and I don't mean all the way through, I just mean when I very first heard part of that song, I thought it was Noel Gallagher. I thought it was Noel Gallagher singing. Now, when I listened to the whole song back, it's obviously not Noel Gallagher, but there are definitely signs in the way he kind of sings the song, essentially, which a definite, absolute a tribute, if you like, to Noel Gallagher. And not long after hearing that song and thinking initially it was Noel Gallagher, I looked on Google, read a few interviews with Brandon Flowers, who is the singer, and he said that Noel Gallagher and Oasis were one of the biggest influences in his youth, which doesn't surprise me, because it really does come across in their music. For me, anyway. I know we're all different, but I definitely see, for me, clear indications of influences from Oasis, amongst many others, of course, but definitely Oasis in here. So yeah, all these things that I've done is a fantastic track. Jenny was a friend of mine, Mr. Brightside, Smile Like You Mean It, Somebody Told Me. Some really strong tracks on here. Now, The Killers for me are a band that, after this album, I've not really followed them that much. I think I've got one CD, which may have been, was it called Sawdust? I might be wrong on that one. That may have been the one after this, but I do stand corrected. But I've really lost touch with what they've done over the past almost 10 years. It's all alien to me. So maybe getting this album, which I bought relatively recently, again, apologies for the glare, I always say it. Not a lot I can do, unless I move the camera, but maybe one day. That's for another day. That's in the future. I forgot what I was saying. Completely throw me. But yeah, it's a good album anyway. Really pleased to get it. And that's really annoying. I was on a roll there, and then that glare bloody put me off. But yeah, it's a good album. Really pleased to get it. But I need to investigate their back catalogue that little bit more. I think I was talking about that. I can't remember. So yeah, decent record. Thoroughly even recommended. Now, the last vinyl that I'm going to show, I'm going to partially show it, is a video that I'm going to do a standalone video for in maybe a week or two. Let me see, what date is it today? It's the 18th. Now, I think, I'd have to check this, I think this album came out the 29th of September, 1997, but I stand corrected, that's just off the top of my head. And if that's the case, that is when I'll do an unboxing of this particular vid, because it will be 20 years since it came out, and 20 years pretty much since I bought it. Now, I'm making that video not for views, it probably won't get a lot of views. I'm not making it for views, I'm not making it for comments, so please don't even feel the need to comment. It may even be one of those very rare, in fact I've never done this before, but it may be one of those videos where I don't even respond to comments. I mean, I might if there's a few, because I don't want to be rude. But what I'm trying to emphasise here is that I'm making this video not for views, not for likes, not for comments. I'm doing it to try and help people. Because what it is, let me show you and then I'll elaborate a little bit more. It's bloody heavy as well. It's the Verve and it's Urban Hymns. So this is the 20th year anniversary box set edition. It's really, really sturdy. And you get a lot of stuff in here, like, I think there must be several records. I've not opened it yet, but I will do later tonight, listen to it a little bit more, and then do an unboxing, if you like, even though I've already unboxed it, or would have done by the time of the vid. But what I want to do with these vids, basically, is I want to show you, there's a front cover as well, it's a classic album. What I want to do with these is to show people what you get for your money. Because often, when I want a limited edition box set, or a deluxe edition, something which is an extremely limited quantities, or is maybe really expensive, if I'm a little bit wary of spending that kind of money on something, I want to know what you're going to get for your money. I want to see what you want to get, or what you're going to get. I want to hear what people think about it. Now, I may disagree, of course. To someone else, it may not be worth the money, but I want to see before I spend that money. So often what I'll do is I'll go onto YouTube and I'll look for unboxings. I often don't even comment. I just watch it. I'm appreciative, obviously, of the vid, but I just move on. And then I may think to myself, do you know what? That's really worth it. I'm going to buy it. Or I may think, actually, that's really expensive. You don't get a lot for it. I'm either not going to get it, or I'm going to wait until I find it really, really cheap. So I just find them really helpful. So I'm thinking, because it was quite expensive as well, I'm thinking it might be worth doing a separate unboxing. Plus, it's 20 years to the day that it came out, or will be when the video comes out. And it was a really kind of pivotal, important album back in the late 90s by a great band, a great album. And yeah, so that's the reason why I'm going to do that. So feel free to watch it, but at the same time, please don't feel obliged ever to watch anything. We all like different things. But yeah, Urban Hymns, 1997. I remember it like it was yesterday. Great year. Some classic tracks. Bittersweet Symphony, so amazing. I know there was a slight kind of legal, hoo-ha with the Rolling Stones over that. But there we are. Songs like Sonnet and The Drugs Don't Work. I mean, really classic songs, beautiful but really haunting. I mean, seriously, if you listen to the lyrics, I mean, they can kind of really make you think, bloody hell, that is deep. And then you really need something to come along and to put you in a good mood again, such as Lucky Man, which is a fantastic track. In fact, it was funny because it was only yesterday, and I'm embarrassed to say this, being quite a big, not a massive, but a big Verve fan, but it was only yesterday that I discovered another version to Lucky Man, another video, I should say. Because the one that I always think of is the one that was released, that most of us know, where they're in that apartment where the light's shining in. Is it on the Thames, Canary Wharf? I think so. And it looks really cool. And Richard Ashcroft, is there with his guitar, kind of standing up and playing it in his kind of like sort of mohair kind of sweater or whatever it is, cardigan. And yeah, really bright video with the light shining through. It just looks really good. It's really kind of summery kind of vibe as well. But there's another version I didn't realise until yesterday. And it's not very good. It's a very basic kind of vid. Not a patch on the one that was actually released. But yeah, it just goes to show you, doesn't it, that you learn something new every day. So there we are. That's the Verve Urban Hymns. I'll do an unboxing of sorts in just over a week. And if you're thinking about getting it, please feel free to watch it. But as I say, please, under no circumstances, feel the need to comment. That's not the point of those videos. Every other kind of video I make, comments obviously are fantastic because I love the interaction. But really, stuff like that is just to show people what you get for your money, and you may be interested. If you are, then feel free to buy it, kind of thing. I need a sweet drink. Much needed. Talking too much. So 2 CDs left. One of them I've had for a long time. The other one is quite a recent pickup, but both of them came out a long time ago. One of them 1994 and one of them 1997, much like the Verve. Similar kind of music to the Verve, that kind of Britpoppy-ish music. The Verve isn't technically Britpop, of course, but it sometimes gets lumped into that kind of category. Anyway, this isn't Britpop. This is just essentially rock. Or, let me actually elaborate on that in a second, it's R.E.M. and it's Monster. Or as Mike Mills, the bass guitarist, said when he was asked to describe the album, he said, it's just rock music. Or is it? And I think the reason he said that is because there's elements of grunge to it, really. Heavily distorted guitars in here, which is, I think, is the first time that R.E.M. had done that on a record. I'm not a massive R.E.M. fan. I do like their stuff, but I'm not, let me rephrase that, I'm not massively knowledgeable, but I am a big fan. But I'm not an expert by any means. But yeah, a lot of distortion on tracks such as Let Me In, which I think Michael Stipe wrote as a tribute to his friend Kurt Cobain, who of course passed away earlier on in 1994. Songs like Bang and Blame, which I think was also a tribute to another friend of Michael Stipe's that passed away. That was River Phoenix, and that was late 93, October time, I think. October for River Phoenix, and it would have been April of 1994, Kurt Cobain. I remember it very, very well, because I was a big Nirvana fan back in the day. I still do like them, of course, but back then I was really, really into them. So yeah, things like What's the Frequency, Kenneth, is, I mean, that has kind of distortion on as well, but that's probably more of a classic pop, rock, alternative rock R.E.M. track. Crushed with Eyeliner is a good one. I Don't Sleep, I Dream, King of Comedy. Star 69's a good kind of rock song. Let me see, what else? Tongue's a good one. Strange Currencies, which is basically Everybody Hurts Part 2. They've ripped off their own song there, but I do like it. So, yeah, a decent album. A decent album brings back a lot of memories. Good memories, I hasten to add. But quite a dark album, really, for R.E.M. Especially, like I say, with those two kind of tribute songs, Let Me In and Bang and Blame. But What's the Frequency, Kenneth, for me, is a fantastic song. I love it. Really good album. And, yeah, it's a shame that R.E.M., they split up, I think, in 2011, didn't they, their last album? Will they reform? I'm sure they will one day. But you never know, do you? Who knows what's going to happen? Now, moving on, last but not least, to another band who have split up. I think off the top of my head, they probably split up around about a similar time, I think. I might be completely wrong on that. But it's Supergrass, and it's In It for the Money. Now, this is 1997, a really good record. Now, a lot of people, when they think of Supergrass, they'll think of things like All Right and Caught by the Fuzz, basically off their debut album, which is fantastic, don't get me wrong. But this, for me, is a better all-round record. What you got with that album, with that, was it self-titled? I think it was. Oh, no, it was I Should Coco. That's what it was. I've had it on a pickup video probably a year or so ago, maybe more. It's a brilliant record, brings back a lot of good memories of like the summer of 95, I guess, did it come out, ish there or thereabouts. But that whole early kind of Britpop thing, it's a monumental record from that era. But even though this was only a couple of years later, This was, I nearly said Radiohead there. This is Supergrass. I don't know where that came from. This is Supergrass, a lot more mature band, even though it was only 2 years later. Moved away from that kind of high energy Britpop kind of feel, which a lot of bands had back then. Even though it was only 2 years later, you had that a lot with like Oasis. They had What's a Story, Morning Glory. Then they had Be Here Now. Only 2 years, but a different style. You had Blur with The Great Escape. And then their self-titled debut album in 1997. Same band, different style. And the same with Supergrass. You know, you had I Should Coco, and then In It for the Money. Same band, completely different style. So Britpop was kind of moving away. It was still that same similar vibe, but I think it was Britpop bands, more mature and moving on, just getting a little bit older and trying a few new things. As I always say, it's a bit of a kind of a favourite subject of mine, really, when it comes to music. But that whole Britpop thing, as we love and as we know it, was very brief. It only kind of lasted a couple of years. The bands continued, but as I say, the styles kind of changed. But as we knew it, if that in-your-face, that aggression, that energy, that was very much kind of 94-ish, but certainly 95, and probably 96 as well. After that, they started to move away. It was still kind of jangly guitars and catchy melodies and all that kind of stuff, but a much more mature approach. I keep saying the same thing there, so let's move on. So yeah, some really strong songs on here for me. I could literally name most of the album. The one thing I'd say is, for me anyway, the last couple of tracks on the album are somewhat, I wouldn't say a letdown, but they're not as good as the rest of the album. Things like In It for the Money, Richard III, Late in the Day, G-Song is a really good song, which wasn't a single. Sun Hits the Sky, Going Out for Me is an amazing, amazing song. One of my favourite from this record, without question. It's Not Me, Cheapskate is a good one. You Can See Me, there's some really good songs on this album. And it's arguably, very arguably, my favourite Supergrass album. And of course, Gaz Coombs, the singer, who shares the same birthday as me. I think he's 2 years older, but he's March the 8th, the same birthday. And pointless little fact for you there. He's released 2 solo records. One of them I have featured on a previous vinyl vid. That could have been as far back as a couple of years ago, I think. If you want to watch it, then feel free, obviously, to check out the playlist. You've probably watched it already, and maybe you don't care. But yeah, a couple of really good solo records that he's done. So maybe one day Supergrass will get back together. They're only in their early 40s, so obviously they could wait a good few years and reform in the future. But it remains to be seen if they will. So there we are. We've got the records with the really heavy box set from the Verve, Urban Hymns. There's a side view if you're interested. And then there's a couple of CDs, like I say, R.E.M. and Supergrass. So thank you for watching. Like I say, next week, or on the 29th, I should say, I'm going to have an unboxing vid of the Verve Urban Hymns. Please don't expect amazing camera work. It might be rubbish. I don't have the professional equipment and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how I'm going to do it, whether I'm going to kind of point the phone down, essentially, on the box and show you what you get. It might be shaky vision with my hand, or I might try and stabilize the camera. It may be just me sitting here just kind of showing you what you get. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but please don't expect anything professional, because it's not going to be that way. It's just going to be me showing you what you get for your money and telling you what I think of it. You know, do I like the record? Although I just talked about a little bit there. Spoiler alert, yes I do. It's a good album. But do I think it's maybe worth the money? Is it worth your investment? Because of course you can just pick the CD up for a couple of pounds or a couple of dollars, and you can probably get the standard reissue of the record for, I'm going to guess, sort of $20, $25 there or thereabouts, maybe even less. So will it be worth your money to get the limited edition set? That's kind of what I'm going to discuss. But it'll be up to you. It'll be up to you whether you think it is. Anyway, thank you for watching. Until my next vid, see you later.